Loki's Lament, a god reborn or a trickster's final act. Ever wondered if the god of mischief was truly redeemed, or if his final act was just the greatest illusion of all? Dive into the shadows of Asgard and beyond as we dissect the enigma that is Loki Laufeyson. Loki's story isn't just a tale of villainy, it's a tragedy etched in frost and fire. Born a frost giant, adopted into Asgardian royalty, he was forever an outsider looking in. This wasn't just about power, it was about belonging, a desperate yearning for acceptance that twisted into resentment. Imagine a child raised in the shadow of a golden god, constantly reminded of his own perceived inadequacy. Loki's envy wasn't mere petulance, it was the agonizing cry of a soul starved for validation. His schemes weren't just power grabs, they were desperate attempts to prove his worth, to carve his own legend into the annals of Asgard. His alliance with Thanos, the invasion of Earth, these weren't the acts of a simple villain. They were the desperate gambits of a god who felt he had nothing to lose, a cosmic outcast seeking to reshape a universe that had rejected him. The kneeling speech wasn't just arrogance. It was a declaration of independence, a defiant roar against a system that had always held him down. But beneath the surface of the quintessential villain, there was always a flicker of something more. Loki's motivations weren't rooted in a lust for destruction, but in the deep-seated pain of feeling like a perpetual second choice. His villainy was a twisted reflection of his own internal struggle, a desperate attempt to find his place in a cosmos that seemed determined to marginalize him. Consider the moment he learned of his true heritage. It wasn't just a revelation. It was an earthquake that shattered his identity. Everything he thought he knew about himself, his family, his place in the world, crumbled before his eyes. This wasn't just a plot twist. It was a profound existential crisis that fueled his descent into darkness. His actions, however reprehensible, were born from a place of profound vulnerability. He wasn't just a villain. He was a wounded soul lashing out at a universe that had dealt him a cruel hand. This understanding doesn't excuse his actions, but it humanizes him, transforming him from a cardboard cutout villain into a complex, tragic figure. The first chinks in Loki's villainous armor appeared in moments of raw vulnerability. His genuine grief at Frigga's death wasn't just an act. It was a glimpse into the heart of a son who had lost the only mother he had ever known. His complicated relationship with Thor, a volatile mix of antagonism and undeniable brotherly love, hinted at a capacity for connection and perhaps even redemption. Think about the scene where he mourns Frigga. It wasn't just sadness. It was a primal scream of anguish, a raw display of emotion that shattered the carefully constructed facade of the aloof trickster. In that moment, we saw the boy beneath the god, the son who had lost his mother, and the brother who, despite everything, still loved Thor. And then there was his apparent sacrifice to save Thor from the Dark Elves. Was it genuine selflessness, or just another elaborate deception? Regardless, it was the first true act of heroism we had seen from the god of mischief, a moment that left audiences questioning everything they thought they knew about him. Even if it was a trick, it was a trick with a noble purpose. Loki's true evolution began when he was forced to confront himself, quite literally. Through encounters with alternate versions of himself, witnessing the consequences of his choices across different timelines, he gained a perspective that conventional character growth could never provide. Seeing his own potential for both tremendous evil and surprising good forced an introspection that mere punishment or imprisonment could never achieve. Imagine the psychological impact of seeing yourself as both a conquering tyrant and a selfless hero. It's a mind-bending experience that forces you to confront the darkest and brightest aspects of your own nature. This wasn't just character development. It was a cosmic therapy session that forced Loki to grapple with the full spectrum of his potential. These encounters weren't just plot devices. They were mirrors reflecting the myriad possibilities that lay within Loki's soul. They forced him to confront the consequences of his actions, to see the ripple effects of his choices across the vast expanse of the multiverse. This wasn't just about changing his behavior. It was about changing his perspective, about understanding the true weight of his decisions. But the path to heroism was never linear. Loki's journey included backslides, moments of selfishness, and persistent mischief. This inconsistency, rather than undermining his character development, made it all the more authentic. Real redemption isn't a single dramatic moment. It's a messy, ongoing process of choosing differently when presented with familiar temptations. Think about the times he betrayed Thor, even after seemingly committing to the path of heroism. These weren't just lapses in judgment. They were tests of his resolve, reminders of the darkness that still lurked within him. The fact that he continued to strive for good, even after these setbacks, is what made his redemption so compelling. His journey wasn't about becoming a saint. It was about learning to manage his inner demons, to channel his mischievous nature towards a greater good. This wasn't just about changing his actions. It was about changing his intentions, about finding a way to use his unique talents for the benefit of others. What ultimately elevated Loki from villain to hero wasn't acquiring traditional heroic traits, but embracing his fundamental nature while redirecting it toward better ends. His cunning, silver tongue, and talent for deception, once tools for domination, became assets in confronting greater threats. Loki never became Thor. His heroism remained distinctly trickster-flavored, characterized by cleverness rather than straightforward courage. Imagine Loki leading an army into battle. He wouldn't be at the front lines, wielding a hammer. He'd be behind the scenes, orchestrating the chaos, manipulating the enemy, and turning their own strengths against them. His heroism wasn't about brute force. It was about strategic brilliance, about using his intellect to outwit his opponents. His deception wasn't about lying. It was about creating illusions, about misdirecting the enemy, and about using their own expectations against them. This wasn't just about winning battles. It was about saving lives, about protecting the innocent, and about using his unique talents to make the world a better place. Perhaps most compelling is how Loki's evolution mirrors universal human struggles with identity and purpose. His journey from the villain defined by jealousy to a hero capable of sacrifice reflects our own capacity for change. His story suggests that redemption doesn't require abandoning one's nature, but rather finding better applications for it. Think about your own life. Have you ever made mistakes? Have you ever felt lost or confused about your purpose? Loki's story is a reminder that it's never too late to change, to find your own path to redemption, and to use your unique talents to make a difference in the world. His journey isn't just about a god. It's about humanity. It's about the potential for good that exists within all of us, even in the darkest of times. It's about the power of choice, the importance of self-reflection, and the possibility of finding meaning and purpose in a world that often seems chaotic and unfair. In the end, Loki's greatest trick was on himself, transforming from the god of mischief obsessed with a glorious purpose imposed on him by others into someone who found meaning in connections, loyalty, and choices that serve something beyond his own glory. His evolution reminds us that the line between villain and hero isn't fixed by fate or birth, but constantly redrawn through the choices we make and the causes we ultimately serve. Imagine Loki looking back on his life. He wouldn't see a villain. He'd see a survivor, a trickster, a hero, and a god who finally found his place in the universe. His legacy wouldn't be one of destruction and chaos. It would be one of redemption, sacrifice, and the enduring power of hope. His story isn't just about a god. It's about a legend. It's about the enduring power of myth, the timeless struggle between good and evil, and the possibility of finding redemption even in the darkest of hearts. It's a story that will continue to resonate with audiences for generations to come, a reminder that even the most mischievous of gods can find their way to heroism. So, was Loki truly redeemed? Or was his final act just the greatest illusion of all? The answer, perhaps, lies not in the act itself, but in the impact it had on those he left behind. Now it's your turn. Delve deeper into the Marvel Universe. Share your thoughts on Loki's journey in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe for more in-depth character analyses and mythological explorations. Join our community of mythology buffs and Marvel fans as we unravel the mysteries of the cosmos together.